The role is quite special to me. I grew up singing, doing musical theater, Broadway kind of stuff. And then when I was a teenager, I said, well, I just want to be an actor. I didn't really like musicals. I thought they were kind of silly. And so I thought I was just going to be a regular Schauspieler. So I was going down that path. But then one day when I was about 17, I wanted to impress my girlfriend and take her out on a nice date. So I thought, well, fancy people go to opera. Let's do that. And so I went to see an opera. And it was Pagliacci, de Bajazzo. And I was absolutely smitten, like, with the art form. Like, this baritone came out, the curtain was closed, there was a little table with makeup and a little coat rack with costume pieces, and he came out dressed normally. And throughout the prologue, he put on his makeup and got dressed. And then he said, "Incominciate," and the curtain flew open, and there was hundreds of people on stage. And I was just like, oh, this is what I want to do. And I was absolutely in love with it. And I went to school the next day and found the choir director and said, what do I have to do to be an opera singer? And it was done. And I never looked back. Usually for a role, you have lots of time in advance. And if you're lucky and you get to really live with it and really take your time. Well, I was in the middle of performances for one production while learning the music for a world premiere of a new opera when they told me we're switching from Gianni Schicchi to Pagliacci. And I had already begun work on Gianni Schicchi, so I didn't have my usual several months of learning and living with a role to get used to it. So this one had to be very fast. It was interesting in this process because everything was up in the air, everything had changed. People were sick, people were unavailable at the beginning. So for the first 2 days, I think I was rehearsing alone because no one else was here or no one else was there yet. And so for the first 2 days, it was just focusing on finding myself. We started with, okay, this guy's sadistic. He's a wild animal who's torturing people, right? And you've got this cycle that's going over and over again. Like, Canio's torture is living through this experience again and again and again. And I'm the one who's pulling, or who's turning the crank and making all this happen, you know? And that's great. And that's a good place to start. And it was fun because you just try stuff and you be nasty and you be over the top. But then when it came time to add the other people, it was a question of, okay, how do I relate to them? And it's amazing what different people provide to you. You know, we have 2 different tenors that I was rehearsing with, and I play the character differently with each one because of what they're doing and because of what they're offering me and because of what they're asking of me on stage. The core relationship stays the same, obviously. The situation stays the same, but they're very different people. And so I have to try and be different people for them in relation to them. And that's such a fun challenge. First of all, I should say I've been incredibly lucky through all of this. I want to make that clear that most people I know have had it much harder than I have, because I had a string of very, very good things that happened to make this possible for me. You know, last March, like everybody else, it happened. I went to the cinema in the afternoon in between rehearsals, and I came out and I had a text from my agent that said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I just heard that Deutsche Oper Berlin is canceling all performances." I said, "Oh." And then I went back to rehearsal. I was rehearsing in Berlin, and I went back and I said, "What's happening?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we have to cancel everything until April 19th. I said, "Okay." And I turned around and went straight to the unemployment office because I thought, I've been following this virus and I don't think April 20th is going to be the day that we reopen. Better to set up my unemployment and then cancel it later if I have to. So I went straight there. I waited about 30 seconds and got set up and I was safe. And so the first lucky thing that happened to me was being in the country of Germany and having been Fest at Deutsche Oper Berlin for many years. Last season, the 2019-20 season, was my first season as a freelance singer. I had been Fest for 9 seasons before that. It was a very strange first year to not have a monthly paycheck. So I had lost performances at Deutsche Oper Berlin, Staatsoper Hannover, and a full production in Minnesota. So in a matter of 3 days, I lost 50% of my income for the year. And that was if nothing else got canceled. That was just in those 3 days, 50% of my expected income for the year was gone. So I thought, that's it. I lost all that money. I don't know what I'm going to do. Luckily, I had the unemployment. But then Minnesota Opera set up a fund to raise money to pay as much as possible for the artists who lost work. They raised an insane amount of money, and they were able to pay us 75% of what we were expected to get paid. With that money, I was now financially safe for the foreseeable future, like as long as more things didn't get canceled. So then I sat at home for 6 months. I went through a lot over those 6 months because I was expecting my first child. So I was really happy to be at home, to be comfortable, to be with my fiance, and to prepare for the arrival of our son. Now I'm on lockdown again for 3 months. My partner's a costume designer. She has a production that's supposed to begin in 5 weeks, and we're crossing our fingers that happens, and we'll travel together with the baby. So we see.